that make learning a little easier. We're not just dealing with mundane material, we're dealing with transcendental knowledge, and this knowledge is essential to our spiritual salvation. So we want to give the devotees the full benefit of what Prabhupada has given us. So that's why we're taking extra time and using additional materials, giving you handouts, creating slides, so that you can realize what a treasure house we've inherited. And this particular chapter deals with the parampara. So those of you who are initiated, or those of you who are hoping to, you belong to this parampara. So we bear a responsibility, actually, for what we're receiving, and hopefully we can, by the grace of Guru and the parampara and Krishna, we can also continue in this line. Okay? Very good. At this point, well, first of all, we'll take a look at your study banks. We always do that first, and then after that, I will stand so that I can use the markers to show you what's particularly beneficial in the slides. Okay, so if you take your study, we call it learning packets now, resource packets. Some people have, difficult experiences when they hear that word. It reminds them maybe some not so fortunate experiences in their schooling. But this is actually not meant for us to cover today. It's a resource packet. If you buy a book, it will have many features that you may not really have time or interest in. It may have a huge appendix, it may have index, it may have all kinds of references that perhaps but it's there. If you want to buy a book and it's missing those items, then you question, is this book authoritative, right? Where are the references? Where's the appendix? Where's the index? So that's why this is a bit voluminous. But it's not, don't let it scare you. We're just picking selective portions from this that coordinate what you'll see on the screen with what it is that it's really beneficial for you to know. Is that okay with everybody? Now on the cover you see a photocopy of the parampara, and inside you will see on the back of that you will find the list of the personalities in our parampara. This is the final feature after the introduction, before the text of the Bhagavad-Gita begins. So we've included that for your benefit. And we're going to show you little tricks on how to learn most of the parampara members. You'll be surprised, you know about 2/3 of them already, even though you may not suspect you do. After that, we have the progressive stages that are secrets to effective learning, beginning with general information and then structure after that sequence. And on the back, themes. One should know the themes and how they relate differently in different chapters. Themes go through the book, but in different chapters, they are highlighted according to the particular chapter. So we'll talk about that today also. After that, you have verse content words. This is all of the 42 slokas, but they've been highlighted according to a word that's very important. That's another secret to reading. We're going to look at some statistics on learning skills, and you'll see why some people have a hard time remembering after reading. And I call this sequence of slides, You're Not Alone. You're going to see some statistics that make you realize most people do have difficulty remembering much. It's not unique in Kali Yuga. That's why we use a variety of methods. This information is our life, our lifeboat. Right? It's critical. We need to know this, and we need to understand it and hopefully apply it in our lives. So you'll see two sheets, 4 sides of content words highlighted, so you can pick out right away what are the words I need to notice in this particular sloka. After that, on the next pages, you will find key verses. These verses have been selected by the scholars in our society is containing the essence of this chapter. If I have some understanding of these slokas, or perhaps even I've heard them a lot, I can even remember some of the English or maybe even the first line of the Sanskrit, these 9 slokas in this chapter are considered key verses. So they've been given to you, Sanskrit along with the English, as a handy reference. Okay? Again, this is just a handy study guide. If you're reading chapter 4, and you keep this, you can pull it out as a companion to your reading. After that, this is quite extensive. I had no idea it would be so lengthy. but I give definitions from the purports. This is what in a lot of books is called the glossary, right? If you have a book, there'll be a glossary, and in the back, the terms, like maybe vanashram or whatever, you'll see those terms given and a definition. So I went through, all of these are coming from the purports, so that there may be a particular way Srila Prabhupada defines the word, or he may define the Sanskrit from the text, or often he quotes other related references, and then he'll give the translation. So this wound up to be 9 sides. So again, don't let it intimidate you. We're not trying to cover this today. This is not our purpose, but it's there for you as a glossary, okay? All right? Then after the glossary, and by the way, the glossary and all the sections have been divided according to topic. That is to help you break things down a little bit. If you try to take too much information, just like a piece of cake, if you try to eat the whole cake, you can't. You have to break it into bite-sized pieces. So topics help us digest the information in sizable, understandable ways. Okay, so you'll see the divisions according to the topics. We're going to learn those today. After that, you'll see analogies and examples. And these have been taken from the purports. Prabhupada and Krishna also uses analogies to convey a philosophical point in a concrete way for us to understand. Philosophy is often difficult for most people. So Prabhupada extensively uses analogies that are excellent, and Krishna in many slokas uses analogies also. We'll be coming across those as well. So we have, for each of those, you see transcendental knowledge about Krishna, you see the subdivisions, and you will see there's a slide for each one of these. So again, this is a page we want to refer to. Why does Prabhupada use this analogy? What is the instruction I need to know in my life so that I'm not going to get another karmic package like this? This package is proof that our consciousness has been contaminated for time, since time immemorial. And we've been blessed to be here, and to be, actually it takes adhikar to hear this knowledge. To be sitting in Vrindavan, to be sitting in this room, and to be hearing about transcendental knowledge takes prerequisite sukriti, bhakti sukriti. Not everybody in the world knows this. And even Krishna says, I tell you this, Arjuna, because you're my devotee and my friend. This knowledge is guyam. It's secret. So you realize, take this knowledge to heart. It's secret. Okay? After that, you'll get values, objectives, checklist. It's very important for us to understand how we are progressing in our spiritual life. People won't always come up to you if they're your friends and say, oh, I don't think you're doing this well, or I think you're remiss in this area. We really have to monitor our own growth. So what we have done here is we've gone through the purports, and we have pulled out whatever Prabhupada said was an exemplary position in Krishna consciousness. And then to the right, you'll see a number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a rating scale for yourself. That means if I look at this position, this is the ideal to go back to Godhead, to be in Krishna's association. Where do I stand? How close am I? Because we are being evaluated right now. At every moment, the devas are calculating our next body. Either spiritual or material, we must take another body at the end of this one. Everybody sitting here now in 100 years will not be in the same body, most likely. True? And does anybody here say for sure what kind of body you'll be given? No. That is why this knowledge, I say this again and again, this knowledge is relevant. Every one of us has to give up this body. No one knows for sure when. At that point, we are awarded, according to our previous actions and thoughts, we're awarded another package. And the goal is to be in the association of Krishna. That means we have to qualify. So he's giving us the criterion, what it takes. It's not a cheap thing to be in the company of the Lord. We've been out of his grace for lifetimes. Now we're trying to rectify our position. Then you'll find a question bank. Now this is done, there are 2 of them. The first one is by slokas. So there are 42 slokas, and then there will be 42 questions. And we have here at the top of the page the 6 words that are functional. These words tell us what we should ask and what we should know. And it's very important to read slokas with those words in mind. We're going to do a few slokas that way, and you'll see how it opens up the sloka right away. If we're just reading, we may not actively ask ourselves these 6 words. If we actively ask ourselves these words, the sloka opens up. And you will not just have something running across your eyeball, you'll actually have something penetrating your intelligence. These are the who, what, when, where, why, and how. And every person who has studied journalism knows that the first paragraph of an article must answer these 6 questions. That's journalistic requirement. I write a newspaper article, the first paragraph answers these 6 questions. Okay? So I decided, well, that's good for the slokas. What about the purport? I got a little carried away, but it's there. Again, not to frighten you. But I went through the purports, and I did the same thing. And you'll see those are marked with the sloka number and the P. And again, I use the words what, when, where, why, how. Okay? After that, you'll find also scriptural references. What books does Prabhupada use in his references? And then, at the very end, we have an appendix. Appendix means extra material, charts. So we have 2 charts. I guess they're back to back on one piece of paper. Right. From the VIHE. And these are 2 of the most essential points to remember from this chapter. Right? How does Krishna fulfill everybody's desire? And what are these 3 terms? Karma, vikarma, akarma. If one knows these, he's acting properly. His chances of getting out of material conditioning are much better than if he doesn't know this. What is karma? What is vikarma? What is akarma? So hopefully today you'll have a clear understanding. I do this, I don't do this. And it's not just if. The laws of nature are so stringent we can't imagine. We don't want to imagine, we'll become terrified. After that, you'll see some charts, that these are slides. And these are charts that we have made to help you easily reference the topics that we'll talk about and the slokas as we go through them. So you'll see a little chart that's called topic, title, and size. And after that, you'll see 5 little charts that have numbers in the circles. And underneath, they'll have a link word. A link means connect. We picked a word from each shloka that seemed interesting, prominent, or easy to remember, and that helps us with the flow of the 42 verses. On the back, it was my habit in the past to make mind maps. I've been including them, but I don't use them so much now. I've more converted to slides because more and more people are accustomed to seeing on their phones images, pictures, slides. And it's easier. You see a slide, it's very hard to forget. Okay, so everybody understand what's in your resource packet? Okay, so when you study the chapter 4, hopefully you'll save this, put it aside. If you don't think you'll use it, maybe share it with someone who you think likes to study. Okay? Because we took a lot of time to put it together. We also want to go at the proper time. We want to give you some skills in how to learn many of the personalities in our parampara. Okay? Okay so far? Very good. So now I'm going to take a moment to stand up. You can take a moment to look again at your slides. And Abhi's now going to take us to the first section on our study bank called Instructional Objectives. And I'm going to remove this garland, if I may, just so I can stand a little better. Instructional objectives are what the facilitator promises the participants at the beginning. It's a promise, right? If you want to go to Delhi or something like that, the driver says, "Oh, I will take you there." I will take you to Delhi, and I can take you there for a certain amount of money and a certain amount of time. And you, on that faith, you agree. Right. So in education, at the beginning of a class, the instructor or facilitator has to make a particular objective for the time spent. We don't just go on and wonder on the topic and talk about this and that. We actually say, at the end of this prescribed period, we want to make sure you have learned, understood, remembered, learned some skills, and developed some values. So your time is well spent. If it's not focused, if the driver is not told, I'm going to Delhi, he may take you to Haryana. Right? So the objectives have to be very, very clear. And that's what we're doing. Now today we're going to, we won't do these first. We're going to save this. We'll go to the puzzle one first. And boy, keeping a garland on is risky when you have white. In the future, I'm going to take it off sooner. That's okay with you. It doesn't work. I've seen some even spiritual men, they take them off immediately. Okay. They're nice, but they stain. Okay? So do we have an expert with the... Okay. Now we have a few instructional objective slides that we've used in the past, and then we have 6 new ones that I've entitled You're Not Alone. These are older ones, but they're important principles. Again, we weave in skills so that when I study, I know what I need to do to make my study beneficial. Okay? Maybe this could be a little bit higher. Do you know how to raise this a little bit? I don't know. Maybe the sound is good enough. Is that good enough? Sound is good? If that's good, we don't need to do it. Putting the pieces together. If I have 42 slokas in this chapter, and they've been on every page of the book, and maybe the classes have taken 2 months, how do I piece it together at the end so I understand it? Okay? So we have to do that in a overview. Otherwise, 42 pieces is like a puzzle with no cover on the box. I don't know how to do it. I just have 42 slokas and I don't know what they mean or where they go. So this is actually a way to create mental compartments in your mind, so you understand the topics. Okay?
Hold the mic in the hand?
No, because I'm going to be using the tablet. Is that good enough? All right. So putting the pieces together. This is one of the objectives in study. How do I compartmentalize all this data so I understand it? Everybody understand this one? Putting it all together. So the next slide, Abai, you want to get that one for me? Is everybody able to hear this okay? All right. Study is on 3 levels. It's not just line by line, word by word. There's an overview that we call that the aerial view of something. You get up in the sky in an airplane and you see a lot, but you don't see detail. You don't see, so everything has its advantage, but I get the big picture. If I go to the land, I walk. Topography, I take steps. So that's the topics, right? If I want to know more, I go into the purports. Those give me the depth of understanding for those slokas. You can see why Prabhupada's book made devotees, because his purports, so many editions of the Gita, nobody understood them. Nobody became a devotee. His purports immediately, people picked up the book, even never met a devotee, and started following the process. So for 2 reasons, because it's in the parampara, but also those purports clarify those slokas. So the 3 levels are general overview, then topics, that's how we follow, and then what do? Purports. So you see that is how we study. Not one or the other, all 3. Understand, everybody? Follow that? So our slides do that, hopefully. We try. Okay, next one. Always start with the big picture, right? Don't just start with this sloka, that sloka, this, that. Again, that's piecemeal. It won't give you a contextual reference or understanding. Okay? Next. Master the structure. When this building was built, or any of the buildings here, by Sorb, he had to put in the structural foundations first. An architect knows that. He just doesn't start with a few bricks and goes up. He has a structure, and every doctor has to learn a skeleton. Every student needs to learn the skeleton first. That way all the information is on solid footing. So build a strong study foundation. Everybody following that okay? Make sense? Otherwise your study collapses. And even in school you realize, especially in math, if you didn't do level 1, level 2 is impossible. Right? If you have a weak foundation on these big buildings going up 2, 3, 18 stories, collapse. Just get a little tremor and the whole thing flattens. Okay? Stepping stones. Now we have those little circle pages. This is called walk through the book. You walk people through the book quickly. You can't just start word by word, beginning to the end. They'll never get to the end. Most people I have met who try to study Gita don't make it past chapter 2. Have you found that, Divananda? Because they just bogged down. It was like too much. But if you walk people through the whole book and you give them the overview, then they're ready to know how to attack. It's a strategy. How do I tackle this? It's a strategy. In the Mahabharata, they are listed 17 strategies for fighting. 17. Whether it's the bow, it's a vyuha, this one, or the chakra. So study requires a strategy, right? So we try to give you those principles to help you when you're reading, okay? So next one, we'll do that last. Now we're going to go back to the You're Not Alone. There are 6 slides in this packet, okay? Now, when I got this information from Rasamandala many years ago, he was teaching a class called VET, Vaishnava Education Training. So I don't want anybody to think that I'm just using outside references, non-devotee material. These statistics have been corroborated by many studies, and they're probably even old now. I mean, I took that course maybe 15 or more years ago. If you think your memory is bad, if you think you can't study, if you think you're not alone, let us see what the truth is. Here we have reading. If you read new material, how much of it can you remember? How much? 10%. Are you alone? This is the average adult reader, not some little boy in school who doesn't have a mommy at home to make him do his homework. Okay? Are you surprised? Have you experienced this? That's why I think a lot of devotees don't take time to read. Because if they're pressed for time and they're not getting much from it, they may feel it's not worth my while. Okay, let's see the next statistic. Hearing. If I hear a lecture, what's my percentage? 20%. Try it. The lecture may be excellent. The speaker may be your spiritual master. After class, your friend will say, "What did he say?" Every time I ask devotees, they say they can't remember. After 8 hours, 80%. After 8 hours, 80% of what you hear, you forget. You're not alone. Next slide. Visual retention. If I see a picture, this is a little better. This is why we use slides now. If I see something and I don't see it later, I have a 30% visual retention of it. But that's getting better, right? Now, the smart person starts to put them together for optimum. So let's see what's next. Okay, here's Kurma teaching us how to make a salad or something. If I combine hearing and seeing, do I get a better return? What do I get? 50%. This is what we call multi-sensory learning. Do you all agree? You do things simultaneously, it's going to have more impact. It should be simultaneous, not separate. If you watch Kurma make a pizza, afterwards you have a 50-50 chance of making a pizza. Okay? Next. Now I'm going to take four senses. I hear it, I see it, I say it, and I do what? Write it. And that's why we give you the study banks. And there are many devotees, even in our movement. I can quote them. Narayani Mataji, Burjan Prabhu, Gaur Govinda Maharaj, they have all said, if you want a sloka to be yours, you have to write it out. Everybody agree? You get up to 70%. So that's why we provide these. Not that we expect you to sit here filling out a form all day. But if you want the benefit, what do you want? 10, 20, 30, 50, 70? It's up to you, right? Now, let's see the last slide. If I do it, now this is why the preachers are so conversant, because they're constantly speaking, right? So the more you practice, of course it gets easier. The faster you're on your computer, because you do it more, right? 90%. Here you see Srila Prabhupada with a little boy Dwarkadish. This is a famous old picture. He was in the Gurukula. Prabhupada's personally moving his hand. He's helping the little boy do it. He just doesn't stand there and say, okay, figure it out on your own. The doing it is very important. So now do you feel you're alone? No, you're not alone. Okay, and these are older statistics. Okay, now we're going to go to the last slide, and that's going to prepare us for going into the book, the chapter. We're going to give a contextual reference for the previous chapters now, because it's always good to see where are we now in terms of Bhagavad-Gita. Fourth chapter means 1, 2, 3 before us, correct? So now we want to see what was the level of realization that brings us to chapter 4. It's progressive. In chapter 1, Arjuna has doubts. He's perplexed. He doesn't know what to do. He realizes he's suffering. That takes a level of consciousness. Most people in the world do not even know they are suffering, correct? They don't know. It's practically animal life. I'm fine. It's okay. Nothing's wrong. Just tolerate it. They don't know they're suffering, and even if they do, they think there's no way to help. There's no help. I tolerate. That's it. So that is the first level of realization. Life is full of problems. Everybody agree? Anybody here have no problems? You wake up in the morning and there's something went wrong. Computer crashes, your best friend is sick. Number 2, chapter 2. What is a higher level of realization? I need help. Help button. When Vaisheshika was asked, what does the Mahamantra mean? You know what he said? It means, I need help. So he goes to a guru. Arjuna now goes to, okay, tell me what to do. I don't know. I've tried to come up with an answer. You don't like it? All right, you tell me what I should do. So that takes a big step. And Krishna outlines the whole book in general. That's what we did. We took you, it's an outline. Everybody follow so far? Now in chapter 3, we move to a higher level of consciousness. Remember, our consciousness is being elevated. Right? Now what do? I have to work. I have to maintain my body. I have to clean it. I have to cook. I have to feed it. I have to pay bills. I have to work. But my work is going to bind me. What do, Krishna? Everything has to be done for Vishnu. Yes, work has to be done for Vishnu, or it binds one to the material world. So that's an even higher level of realization. Everybody got that one? Now let us say I've done chapter 3. I work. I offer my work to Vishnu. What's the result of that? Transcendental knowledge. That is the fruit. Because somebody who's working all day and he earns his money and he has to pay for the bills, he's taking care of his, he says, why do I give this to Krishna? I've worked, it's mine. But he doesn't realize that if you give it to Vishnu, you do get a benefit. And what's the benefit? Transcendental knowledge in the disciplic succession. So everybody understand? Now our consciousness is being elevated. In chapter 5, it goes to a higher, if you get chapter 4 and you practice chapter 4, you're ready for 5. Make sense? These chapters are not just arbitrary. It's a progression in the elevation to the perfection of spiritual knowledge. Okay? All right, so now let us go to our, let's see, topic breakdown, okay? Let's turn to your little packet in the back, and you'll see the topics. This, again, is our chapter. Before we go here, let's fill out our form. On the first page, we are in the Bhagavad-Gita, right? Obviously. And what is the title? You should know by now. What's the title, everybody? Transcendental Knowledge. All right, that's important to know. What is this chapter all about? All right, and we find out its size. How big is it? It's 42 verses. So now you see on your paper, you write it in. Remember, if you want 70%, just write the number in. It's no big deal. But it's there for you. This is like a worksheet activity book. Okay? Section. Yeah, the first page, you have, you would have, the section. This is in the Karma Yoga, KY. Okay? Everybody understand that now? Okay? So, when you're studying, what you should do is try to get as much out of the material that you can. This slide, if I wanted to exhaust its possibilities, it has the title, it has the chapter number, it has the slokas, and it has the most quoted sloka in the Bhagavad-Gita, in Sanskrit and English. You could spend about 10 or 15 minutes on this slide, right? So learn that skill. Don't just look at it and go on. You're missing out. There's so much knowledge, just in the smallest things, okay? All right, now let's take a look at our next thing we want to fill out. Here we have a chart, and you also have it in the back. Remember those little appendix charts? You have it. This is the topic title and the topic size. So as you look at these 5 colors, and they're arranged according to the spectrum, the rainbow, that gives us a standard to follow. Orange, yellow, green, blue, purplish, blue, indigo. That's the way the rainbow is. So it gives us a pattern for every chapter. We're going to try to do every chapter this way. How many topics do you see here? How many? 5. 5 topics in this chapter in 42 slokas. Now, let's look at the numbers. They look sort of easy to fill in. 10, and half of 10 is what? 5. 999. Okay, this is your PIN code. 10, can you fill those numbers in on your chart? You see where to do that? You put in 10, the first one, and then you put 5. The second topic is only 5 slokas. And then the next 3 are each, how many? 9. Okay. 10, half of 10 is 5, 999. Okay? All right. Now, let us figure out what the code means, because I see a code. And in chemistry, I'm faced with codes, but the teacher has to say, well, what is it? What is H2O? It means hydrogen, oxygen. It translates as water. But they just say H2O. After a while, you understand. Okay? So, by the way, today is the 50th anniversary of ISKCON, ISKCON, right? So this is fortunate because we're in a parampara, and this is an anniversary today. Very important. Okay. Let me open this. Okay, so let's take a look. We have Transcendental Knowledge as the title, and to make it easy, learn how to make your study easy. Be a little bit creative. 3 of the topics include that word, Transcendental Knowledge. Okay? So already you've got half the job done. And one of them in the middle was the chapter last time, Karma Yoga. Okay? So let's do number 10 first. We're going to put a T and then K with a little N. Transcendental Knowledge. Just put your code. About whom? About Krishna. Now somebody might say, oh, that's nice. That knowledge will send you back to Godhead. That's 4-9. The knowledge of Krishna's transcendental nature can send you back to Godhead. Can you see why not everybody in the world knows this? You have to have Sukriti to know this. Okay, everybody got the first one? How big is that section? 10. All right, the next one is what? We're going to change it. We see Krishna. And the little star, that means Krishna. And we see arrows pointing to him. Right? That means Krishna is the goal of all paths. Eventually, everybody has to get to Krishna. So you could put Krishna with a little star and the little arrows. He is the goal of all processes. Below it, we're going to put 4-4. Does everybody know what that means? 4-4? The Varnashram system. 4 Varnas and 4 Ashrams. He describes that in these 5 slokas. And you'll see why. Okay? So again, the first one, we do a yo-yo practice. The first one is transcendental knowledge about who? Krishna. And the second part is Krishna is the goal of all paths. All paths lead to him. And he is the creator of what? The Varnashram system. Okay. That's 5 slokas. Now the next one is called Karma Yoga. So you put a capital K with a lowercase y. Karma Yoga was the last chapter. That has 9 slokas. This time it is very evolved. This is very difficult. It talks about karma, vikarma, akarma. Action, inaction, forbidden action. This chapter section you must know. You must know it. If you don't know this, your chances of getting a material body are very good. We're not just dealing with chemistry, physics. We're talking about the boat of transcendental knowledge to pull us out of the material ocean. Okay, 9 slokas there. Now we're going to go to transcendental knowledge again. There's an S, and the arrows are going the other way. So you can write that in. Okay? And this means sacrifices. These sacrifices lead to what? Transcendental knowledge. Everybody in the world is sacrificing. Right? Even the man who's an atheist, he has to work hard. Everybody has to sacrifice his life, his energy, his money, his time. But will the result be transcendental knowledge? Is that what he will get for his sacrifice? No. But the Vedas prescribe, according to Varnashram, according to your nature, what you should do to get transcendental knowledge. It's prescribed in the Vedas. Not every sacrifice gives you transcendental knowledge. These have all been approved by the Vedas. Okay? Somebody may say, hey, look, I have to work hard. I have to pay my bills. I have a wife and 3 children, and my mother's in the hospital. And what are you talking about? I'm sacrificing my life. But at the end, no gain. Nothing. Everything's lost. The poor materialist out there is in such darkness. We have to feel compassion. And for ourselves. We can't cut ourselves out of the picture. Everybody sitting here has a prison suit on. Right? Everybody. This is your costume. Okay. The last category is also 9 slokas. It has an S, and I put a bracket around it. S, this case, means summary. This is a summary of transcendental knowledge. So we have S over T, K, N. Okay? So these are the 5 topics we're going to examine in this chapter. Transcendental knowledge about Krishna, 10. Krishna is the goal of all paths and the creator of Varnashram, 5. Karma Yoga, 9. Sacrifices that will bring me transcendental knowledge. And the last one is summary of transcendental knowledge. Okay, everybody get a clearer picture now? If you were just to read this chapter, would you have been able to figure this out? No, you need the help of study guides. you really need the help of study guides. And we do take help. Remember, press that help button. Okay. Now we're going to look at the topic slides themselves. They are taking you to a higher level. Okay, 5 slides. Are we ready? The first one is going to be a slide that is about transcendental knowledge. We've had that one. The next one. There it is, topic 1. Now we're taking you further. We're giving you a picture, and who's in the picture? Krishna. And what's the topic? Transcendental knowledge about whom? Krishna. And we go here from 4.1 to 10. So now we have more information for you. Now let's look at the next one, because now you're ready. This is easy now. Number 2, remember what that one was? Krishna was the goal of all paths and the creator of what? Varnashram. And this is from 11 to 15. Not so difficult now, right? If you do everything in stages, it's not difficult. And you'll understand the chapter and why. Okay, next. 3rd topic. What's this one? Karma Yoga. I have to work. I have to work. But how do I work? Prabhupada says, you don't give up work. That was Arjuna. I want to give up my work. I don't want a reaction. You give up your work, you'll get a reaction. It's not doing your work. It's how to do your work. That's no reaction. That's Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi. Karma Yoga. Naishkam Karma Yoga. Okay? Next. Sacrifices lead to transcendental knowledge. Which ones? So they are prescribed, and we get a whole list in that section. Whether it's pranayam, or whether it's the Patanjali yoga system, or whether it's sacrificing material possessions, or whether it's worshiping the demigods. There's so many sacrifices, but all of them are prescribed in the Vedas, so they will bring results. They bring results. Any other material sacrifice, no transcendental benefit. So this takes us from 25 to what? 33. All those sacrifices. And if you know this is how powerful this chapter is. If you know that these sacrifices are approved by the Vedas, guess what? That knowledge brings you liberation. We have no idea how powerful this chapter is. 4 main slokas in there, quoted all the time. Liberation comes from this knowledge. Okay, the last section is what? Summary of transcendental knowledge. This is where we fit into the picture. We are sitting here. The book was spoken 5,000 years ago. The parampara starts from Krishna. What does that mean for us? The parampara is like an internet connection. If you want to go online, you have to connect. You have to connect. So how do you connect? You have to connect with someone who's connected. Can you do it? Can you send an email without a connection to the internet? And it's interesting, there are 4 major connections, 4 paramparas, 4 ones that come, 4 sampradayas. So like in Vrindavan, for instance, maybe it's Reliance, maybe was it BSL, or what's the other one, MTS. They will work, but you have to connect. So how do I connect? This is for us. How do I connect? So you have to connect with someone who's connected. He has to be in the parampara, and he has to be bona fide. Otherwise, your knowledge is imperfect. Everybody understand? Very important. Okay, next. We've done all 5. So everybody understand the sections and the breakdowns. You okay with all that? All right. So now our next step is we're going to look at the key memory verses. All right. Bhagavad-Gita as it is again. And here we've shown keyboard on a computer. These are the key memory verses. Now let's take a look. If you see 1 asterisk, it means it's a thematic verse. If you see 2 asterisks, it means you've got to know this one. You need to know this one. So you have 4 key memory verses, and you have 5 thematic verses. Do you see them on the keyboard? Now, if you look from 1 to 10, the first section, How many of the verses are in the first 10 slokas? Look at that. 1, 2, 3, 6, 8, and 9. Transcendental knowledge about Krishna. So powerful, this knowledge. Can take you right back to Godhead, this knowledge. That's why this knowledge has to be given to the world. People don't know it. Then, in the next section, 5 slokas, how many are there? 11 and 13. 2 out of 5. Not until we get into the summary do we get the next one, 34. Tadvidi pranipatena. Famous sloka. How do I approach a spiritual master so he's happy with me? So there's a reciprocation. So that Krishna sends down the knowledge. Krishna doesn't have to send the knowledge. You cannot hand your guru or Krishna money. Any guru who demands money, he's bogus. Knowledge does not descend like that. What people pay money for is nescience. Right, Devananda Pandit? The money, if you pay money for education, that education is material. It is not spiritual. Spiritual knowledge cannot be obtained by paying money. It is obtained by 3 ornaments: surrender, submissive inquiry, and service. Then Krishna will send the knowledge and your ability to understand it. So important. This is how we connect to the parampara. Everybody understand that one so far? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 6, 8, 9, 11, 13, and 34. Now we're going to look at those slokas. And we're going to apply the who, what, when, where, why for this. We're going to try different strategies, okay? First of all, we look at the picture, right? And you see Krishna, and then you see, who do you see? Vivasvan, and then you see the next one is Manu. I didn't have room to put in Ikshvaku. All right, now what we've done on these slides, every one of the slokas has a slide. And we've included 4 or 5 things. The sloka has a picture, it has the Sanskrit, it has the English, it has the link word. In this sloka, the link word is what? Vivasvan. It has the sloka number, and if there's a star or 2 stars, what does that mean? It's a key or thematic verse. So you have about 5, and we've decided to try to do the whole book, if Krishna allows, that way. Okay? So that you can easily reference these on 4 levels. I've got a picture. I know a link word. I've got the English reference. I have the Sanskrit, if I can do it. And I know if this is an important sloka. Okay? Now, what I do is we interactively read the sloka. And we're going to ask ourselves, is this a what, a why, a where, a how sloka? So when I stop reading, you say the next word loudly. Everybody ready? The personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, said, I instructed this imperishable of yoga to the sun god. And Vivasvan instructed it to the father of mankind. And Manu in turn instructed it to. So we have 4 personalities. Who? Who do we have? Krishna, Vivasvan, Manu, and Ikshvaku. That's the beginning of that disciplic succession. And Prabhupada makes a good point. He said, Gita is not just for the earth. We're talking about the sun planet. It's for the devas. And we're going back millions of years. Millions of years. This is not new information just for earth. No. Okay, next slide. Disciplic is the word. What do we see in the picture? Parampara. And we see Prabhupada. And there's a little devotee there, a little boy devotee, like this little boy devotee, receiving the knowledge from Krishna. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of succession, and the saintly understood it in that, but in course of time the succession was, and therefore the science as it is, to be lost. So once there's a break, Krishna has to come and reestablish the chain. So he did that with Arjuna. If we follow Arjuna, that chain had to be reestablished. That's why Krishna spoke Bhagavad-Gita to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, to reestablish the parampara. Next, by the way, that had 2 stars. Okay. Ancient. Is this new knowledge? No. And this sloka has a star. This very ancient science. This is not fanatic religions. This is a science of the relation. What's the science about? The relationship with thee is told by me to you because you are my devotee, as well as my friend. So this is the qualification. You cannot understand Bhagavad Gita if you're not a devotee and if you're inimical. If you're inimical to Krishna, is he going to tell you anything? No way. You have to be friendly and you have to be a devotee. Therefore, you can understand the transcendental mystery. So the Gita is 2 things. It's a science, but it's a mystery. It takes revelation. Okay, next sloka, number 4. Oh, here's another one. Original. Oh, number 4. This is number 6. Original. Now, Krishna has been invited by Arjuna to speak about himself so that the atheists can be disproven. The atheists are going to say, oh, he's just a man. He's a famous personality. He's not God. He dances with wives of other people. Why him? So Arjuna invites Krishna to speak about himself, right? If you hear offerings to Prabhupada on his Vyasa Puja Day, this host will say, now we will hear from this disciple. He will speak about Prabhupada. So Arjuna invites Krishna to speak about himself. Who can tell you more about Krishna than Krishna himself, right? So this is a polite way. Arjuna knows who he is. He knows he's God. He knows he's right. But this is a polite way. Krishna, you tell us all about yourself. So Krishna is now going to tell us he is what? Although I am unborn. He doesn't take birth. And my transcendental body never doesn't get old. And although I am the Lord of all living, I still appear in my original transcendental form. That means he comes in this millennium as Lord Chaitanya. He comes in every millennium. He doesn't take birth, he appears. He doesn't grow old. He's ever youthful. That's his original form. Okay? Is this helpful for you? Okay, the next slide. Number 8. Why? This is a why sloka. Why does he come? And what's the word in the picture? Miscreants. Who do we see? Kamsa and? Yes, Hiranyakashipu. Definitely miscreants. To deliver, he has 3 reasons he comes. To deliver the what? And to annihilate thee, as well as to reestablish the principles of I myself appear. When? Millennium after millennium. Millennium after millennium, millennium. Next. Famous sloka, most quoted sloka in all of Prabhupada's books. Attains. What do we wish to attain? Okay, one who knows what? The transcendental nature. He doesn't get old. He doesn't take birth. He's not like us. Of my appearance and my activities, he does not, upon leaving thee, take his birth again in this material, but attains my eternal, O Arjuna. What a promise. Just knowing this. Isn't that wonderful? Krishna is so powerful. Okay, number 11. This is yellow. It's in the next section. This is on the section on he's the goal of all paths and the creator of an ashram. The path. Now we see the gopis chasing the chariot. Akrura is taking Krishna away. They're definitely trying to follow the path. As all surrender unto, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my in all, O son of Pritha. Everyone is really looking for Krishna. He doesn't even know it. He doesn't even know it. And Krishna awards them according to the intensity and intimacy of their love. The hierarchy goes up to Radharani. She has the most intimate love for Krishna and the most intense. I. Intense, intimate. So according to your intensity of love for Krishna, according to your intimate love for Krishna, that will establish your position in the spiritual world. You all have a place there. You all have a place. And that you've linked up with Srila Prabhupada, it's probably a pretty good one. Next, 13. Divisions of society. He's the creator of those. And we see the 4 varnas, right? According to what? The 3 modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the 4 divisions of human society are created by, and although I am the creator of this system, you should know that I am yet the undoer, being unchangeable. So he's telling us this because he's not affected by it. He creates it, but it doesn't affect Krishna. He doesn't have to work according to Varna and Ashram. He doesn't have to worry about the results of his activity. We do. So if you know that about Krishna, guess what? That brings liberation. Every section brings liberation, liberation, liberation. Just knowing this. So powerful, this chapter. Okay, and the last one, 34. How do we approach a guru? The 3 steps. What do you want to know? You want to know the truth. Outside, you're getting lies. Either conscious or unconsciously. Just try to learn the what? By approaching inquire from him, and render service unto. The self-realized can impart knowledge unto because they have seen the truth. Now here you see Prabhupada, he has seen Rupa Goswami. And does anybody disbelieve that he didn't see Krishna? Krishna would talk to him all the time. He would dictate the books. He came and massaged his heart on the ship. He has seen the truth. We can trust that. Right? So those were our ones like that. Okay? Very good. That's it. Right. So now what we're going to do, we're going to go to, I think what we'll try to do, let's try to do the first section first, because we've covered most of the slides. We'll just look at it again. We've pretty much covered the first section just by key verses. So we're not going to go through this again, but I just want you to see the other ones. We'll read the other ones that we skipped. So let's go back again. Here are we're in the orange section, 10 slokas. Next. These are the link words. Let's say them. Vivasvan, disciplic, ancient, senior, remember, original, decline, miscreants, attains, and love. Those link us. That we're called the stepping stones approach. All right, let's do the ones that we missed. We did that one, and we did number 2, and we also did number 3. Let's do number 4. Senior. This is where he asks a question, but it's rhetorical. He knows Krishna is God, but he wants Krishna to speak about himself. Arjuna said, the sun god is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that you instructed this science to? Vivaswan's living millions of years, and Arjuna and Krishna are contemporaries. How did you talk to him? So this is why Krishna said, well, listen, I remember you were there, but you don't. Why? Because you change your body. When you change your body, you forget. At night, we change our body. We die every night. We don't just die at death. Every night we die, we change our body. And in the morning, you may remember it briefly, but then you take up the work of the daydream. This is a daydream. At night, it's a night dream. So you forget. How many of you remembered the dream you had last night? Unless it was a nightmare, maybe. But you don't. You're into the new dream. This is the new dream. Next body's the next dream. That's all. So he says, you were there, but you don't remember. But I remember all of them. Krishna's different. Next sloka, number 5. The bird is remember. That's the difference between Krishna and us. The personality of Godhead said, many, many births, both you and I have passed. I can, all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. So here he is as a little baby. He's showing his Vishnu form first to Devaki and Vasudev. And there he is with little Balaram at the name-giving ceremony with Gargamuni. He remembers all of this. Okay, the next one. I think we did this one. We did 6. Number 7. When there's a decline, this is why he comes. When? Whenever and wherever there is in religious practice, O descendant of, and a predominant rise of, at that time I descend myself. So that is when, right? When irreligion is predominant, and in Kali Yuga it's certainly the case, he descends. Okay? And we did number 8, and we did number 9. Now we'll do number 10. This is a very brilliant purport. If we get a chance to explain that one tomorrow, it's so deep. Attachment, fear, and anger, the way Prabhupada defines them in this purport is brilliant. The result of this knowledge and taking shelter of it brings transcendental love. Again, these are the benedictions. This is the end. You see at the end of a section, you'll usually get the benediction. Being freed from attachment, fear, and being fully absorbed in and taking refuge in many, many in the past became by knowledge. There it is, knowledge. If you don't have knowledge, you don't know what to do. And thus they all attain transcendental for me. This is the fruit, transcendental love. If you're purified, why don't we have love for Krishna? Because we still have contaminations. That purification, once that takes place, Krishna shows up in front of you. He's there, but right now we don't qualify. And here you see little Dhruva. And he, just by the touch of the conch shell, what did I want? A kingdom, I've got you. Okay? So now what we're going to do, we're going to see a little film clip. It's only 5 minutes. You've all been very patient. Tomorrow we'll do the 2nd and 3rd and 4th and 5th sections. And then we have two other film clips tomorrow. So we'll finish the chapter this way, and we'll show you the analogies also. Okay. No, not that one. Oh yeah, that's right. This is the Vanash. Okay, before we start this, can you stop it for a second? This is what you should look for. This is only 5 minutes. In this one, it talks about the Varnas, and we all know that. The Brahmanas are in goodness, the Kshatriyas are in passion. We know that the Vaishyas are mixed passion and ignorance, and the Shudras usually in ignorance. Why I chose this was that it gives us a particular slant, a particular understanding. In this little part of this video, it's done by Russian devotee, and it's brilliant. It's actually they're very creative and very intelligent. In this, they say these show us how the different Varnas interact with other people. The Brahmana interacts on the highest level of accountability. That's why he has to have many qualities. The Kshatriya interacts with people in a different way. He requires many qualities, but not as many as the Brahmana. The Vaishya has to interact with people, but he doesn't have as many qualities. He has to interact with people. The Shudra just interacts with matter. Very little liability. Not much risk. You know, some man that's just hammering a nail all day, there's not too much that can go wrong in his life. But if a Brahmana misguides people, or if a Kshatriya doesn't properly protect people, or if a Vaishya starts to cheat people, the whole world is run by Vaishyas, completely exploiting the material energy. What happens? What happens? So please watch it and look for those points. Okay? And then after that, we'll end, and we have some prasadam for you. And I hope you found this beneficial, and I hope if you can join us tomorrow, we'll complete the chapter and show you the analogy slides. Okay? Very good.
Civilization goodness cares about the progress of man and not machines. It helps one to focus on one's spiritual goals. The fundamentals of this culture is the knowledge of the original spiritual nature of man.
Can you all hear that well enough?
Developing spiritual qualities and divine consciousness. The criterion of success in the Western countries is the consumption of goods and services in ever greater amounts and external comfort, whereas the standards of spiritual culture are simple living and high thinking. Nowadays, more and more people from the first world countries who have been disappointed in the superficial culture of the West go on a spiritual quest to the third world countries in search for eternal development, harmony, and enlightenment. Are also evident in the professional orientation of people. Predominance of goodness means that a person is more attracted to teaching, counseling, science research, and spiritual practices. The Vedas call such people the Brahmins, or those who know the spiritual nature of reality. The mode of passion makes one more active externally and pushes to activities such as politics and governing. These people are called Kshatriyas, or protectors of society. They have congenital organizational skills and leadership qualities. Mutual influence of the modes of passion and ignorance inclines a person to business and trade. They are the bakers and businessmen. The Vedas call them Vaishyas. These people know how to increase their capital and are prone to hoarding. Influence of the mode of ignorance motivates one to be a laborer or a skilled or unskilled worker, acting in the sphere of services and entertainment. This type of people is called Shudras, those who serve the rest. People whose profession is associated with goodness bear the ultimate responsibility to society. The professions under the influence of ignorance involves minimum liability. It should be understood that the modes do not indicate the degree of one's intelligence, but rather the nature of one's interaction with other people in the course of professional activity. Originally, the Brahmins were the intermediaries between man and God, and the conductors of higher knowledge in human society. Teachers, mentors, spiritual and intellectual leaders of society. In this way, they were regarded as the highest social group. Kshatriyas, rulers, interact with people not by teaching them, but by establishing the order. The Vaishyas, merchants, interact with people by organizing the processes of production or trade. The Shudras, workers, spend most of their time simply interacting with inert matter. This is why it's considered that their activities take place under the influence of the mode of ignorance. Spiritually, they are all equal and can serve God by devoting their talents and abilities to Him. This spiritual equality between people made the Vedic God-centered society stable and free of class struggle.
So the essence then of the Varnashram system is as they said at the end, without the Varnashram system, it's an animal society. And the purpose of it is not for caste division, but the purpose of it to make the society stable for spiritual emancipation. It's the first step towards that. Without that understanding, it's actually naturally there, but unless people have the spiritual objective to it, it degrades. It degrades. It becomes a caste culture, which has very adverse effects. So anyway, I hope today you found this helpful. If you're able to join us again, if you can bring along your little resource packets, that will be helpful. Be sure you accept some prasadam as you leave. And tomorrow we will see from the same video two 7-minute clips, and we will finish the chapter, and we will look at slides on the purports as well. We won't need to delegate an introductory time, because this time so much time was spent on going over the booklet. But tomorrow we'll just start right away with part 2, 3, 4, and 5, the analogy slides, and the video clips. So thank you much for coming, and I hope you found this helpful. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.